Good morning, Rob Benedict. Welcome on VH Berries.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here talking to you.
I am extremely grateful, and for today, I closely followed your pieces of advice because I am leaving the lights on.
Good. That's good. That's great. I'm glad that you're learning from the lyrics in my songs. That's my goal.
So you just released this very special album to your heart back in January of this new year. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. Primarily I'm an actor, but I've always played music on the side. It's been sort of it's my passion. It's the thing that kind of gets me through. I write my own music, and it's almost like writing in a journal for me. It really it gets me through the dark times and helps me figure out certain things. I used to keep the songs to myself, and then I started playing in a band, and the band it's called Loudon Swain, and so we played music together for about 20 years, and because of my acting career, we've had the opportunity to play to people who might know me more from acting, but people found us through that, and then we were able to sort of get our music out there through my acting stuff, and so that's kind of where I was going into the lockdown, and then COVID happened, and I was by myself a lot and going through some stuff, and I just wrote. I wrote a lot of music, and it was almost too much just to give to the band, and the music really felt more like a personal thing for me. It was the songs were a little more personal, and so I decided to, for the first time ever, to go make a solo record, and so I went to Nashville and recorded with a producer musician I know named Tyler James, and we put together this 9-song record and put it out in January, and I'm really proud of it. And like I said, it's all very personal to me, but I almost feel like if you're making music, like the last step of making music is having people who listen to the music. So I put it together and I put it out there for the world to hear.
It is a genius album, and you just said that there are 9 tracks plus. You forgot to mention it. A bonus one. It is a live performance.
Yeah. There's a bonus when you get it on iTunes or anywhere digitally. There's a bonus. We do the song "Secret" live in Kentucky, where we were kind of doing arrangements before we went down to Nashville to record it. So right, you're exactly right. It's actually 10 songs, including the bonus.
I feel, Rob Benedict, that you have this very special relationship with live performances and live concert because you perform in the past for more than 2 decades with your band in live.
Yeah. It's been really amazing. I was on the show. I acted on the show Supernatural. For that show was on for 15 seasons, and we were able to do conventions, fan conventions around the world. And people who know the show kind of get it. People who don't know the show are like, wait, what? But people who know the show understand. There's like the fans of that show are very active, and so we were able to do these shows where we meet fans, and we go travel around the world, and I've been had the opportunity to bring my band with me, and so the band now comes to almost all the conventions with me, and we do a big show on Saturday night. We call it the Saturday Night Special, and it's pretty amazing. It's really remarkable. We play to about 1,000 people, and going into it as a band, playing a convention, it didn't have the street cred as like playing like some cool club on Sunset Boulevard. But the truth is, it's so much better than that, really, because like you're the the audiences that we have are some of the best audiences I've ever played for. They really receive the music, if that makes sense, and they give it right back to you. They're active. They sing the lyrics. They hold up candles, like they hold up lights. It's pretty amazing experience. So yeah, I've developed this very intimate relationship with fans of our music and fans of Supernatural through these performances, and we share these moments together that are really something. It's very unique, I think, in terms of connecting with your audience.
It for sure connects you with the audience, and I also think that by using, for example, the convention to perform, it takes off a lot of pressure, because convention and concerts are not the initial goals.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you make music, and you do art, you act, you're into the performance, and you're not really thinking of the final product. You're not thinking of whether or not people are going to like it, or, whether or not people are going to dance to the music or enjoy your performance, or, you just do it. And, so yeah, I mean, all of this has been really, unexpected, I don't know, icing on the cake. I don't know what the right expression is, but it's been unexpected, sort of, bonus to what we do, and I could never have imagined, for example, when I auditioned to be on Supernatural, it was just going to be one episode, and that was it, and I had no idea they were going to turn it into this recurring character that lasted I started in season 4 and I finished at the end of season 15. So I never imagined it would go that long, much less that I would also be doing these conventions on the side and meeting the fans and then bringing my music into it. I mean, it's really blossomed into this unimaginable other realm of something I never could have imagined in terms of connecting with people and bringing together the art and the reception of the art together, kind of in one space. It's been amazing and unexpected.
And Rob Benedict, in this one and simple space, there is this very unique cover album in which I can recognize the Mountain of Wisdom.
Yeah. We did. I think you're talking about the Saturday Night Special album that we did. So on Saturday night, what we do at these conventions is we play this like 2-hour show, and it's like 70% our own music and then 30% cover songs that we do with actors who are on the show that come. We're blessed with, like, a lot of people on Supernatural actually have amazing voices or just are amazing musicians. So you have everything from Mark Shepard, who played Crowley on the show, playing drums, or Richard Speight Jr., who played the Trickster, and he's playing bass, and then we have people singing. Ruth Connell played Rowena, is singing, so we have like lots of different people joining us for these covers. Jensen Ackles, who plays one of the lead characters, he sings with us. So all these songs are on that live album. It's a pretty cool album because you get to experience what that Saturday Night Special at least sounds like, if you can't be there.
It, of course, can concern and be applied to the album that you just mentioned, but I was more talking about Leave the Lights On, because behind you in the cover, there is a sort of mountain with a sun.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that cover. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. That's right. I was thinking of cover as in cover songs. But yeah, you're right. On the front of Leave the Light On, there's a mountain behind me. It's a really cool album cover designed by Tyler James, who's also the producer and plays a lot of instruments on it. He's a brilliant artist in many ways, obviously, and he has something as an artist, I can't do. I'm not good at like visuals. I'm good at acting, and I'm good at writing, playing music, but I'm not really good at anything else like painting or drawing or doing design. So he's great at it. And so, yeah, he designed this cover album kind of around this picture of me that we had. And it's a really cool, you're right, mountains, mountains of knowledge there.
And Rob Benedict, since 1997, you are part of a band called Loud and Swain, not
Yeah.
to misunderstand and confuse with Loud and Sing or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah,
as I did last time. I didn't knew that it was a name from a movie character.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny, when you it's a moment I'm sure all bands have when you're like, okay, we've got a group, we're playing music, we need a name. And that conversation is a big conversation. Well, you could come out of it being, whatever, being the band, and we talked, and all of us were familiar with and really liked this movie from the 80s called Vision Quest. And Matthew Modine in this movie, he plays this wrestler. It's taken from a teenage a novel, a young adult novel, and so he plays this character named Loudon Swain, and Loudon Swain is this wrestler, and it's kind of a Rocky kind of story, like a Rocky Balboa kind of story, where he trains and trains, and at the end of it, he fights his biggest nemesis, and it's really amazing, uplifting story, and really got all of us. Anyway, so. We formed in the 90s, and at that time, people were doing that kind of thing. There's a band called Veruca Salt, named after a character in Willy Wonka. Then there's Duran Duran, which is named after a movie character in Barbarella, the Jane Fonda movie from the 70s. So anyway, we kind of went along that line. There was a band called Save Ferris from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So anyway, so we went that route, and we named ourselves Loud and Swain. Well, little did we know that every conversation was going to go, no, not Loud and Swain, Loud and Swain, like Loudon Wainwright. Anyway, but that's our name. That's the name of the band.
And I believe that from all of the names that you mentioned, taken from movies, the one of your band is maybe the one that aged the best through the times.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's very niche. You don't recognize it right away, and so and occasionally it's less and less now than when we were younger. But occasionally, there'll be that person who's around 50 who's like, hey, I know that name, I know what that's from, and that's always a good feeling, like someone gets it. But yeah, it's it's a cool little thing. And what's amazing is the guy who wrote the novel and wrote the screenplay of the movie, he got a hold of us like maybe in the early 2000s, and was like, hey, I heard about your band. And we thought, oh no, he's going to cancel us, And he was like, I love it. I love that you named your band that. And he's like, can I send you a signed poster? So he sent us all a signed poster of Vision Quest, and he sent us the original novel signed. So it was really, really cool that he did that. And then the other cool thing about it is I happened to meet Matthew Modine at a movie festival. Both of us were in movies that were screening at this movie festival, and afterwards they had a Q&A, and so we were both in the Q&A. And during the Q&A, I said something about, someone asked what the music was from my movie, and I had put a Loudon Swain song in my movie that I was also in. It was a movie I wrote and was in, and it's actually on this poster behind me. It's a movie called The Sidekick, as a 30-minute short that I made, and anyway, so I said Loudon Swain, and he was like, wait a minute, that's you? I've heard about you guys. And so afterwards, I'm a huge Matthew Modine fan. Like he's the greatest. And so he was like, I love it. I love that. And he was like, hey, he said, hey, would you take a picture with my daughter? Because she's a huge Supernatural fan. That's what he said to me. And I was like, dude, I'll do that. If you take a picture with me, my bandmates are going to flip out. So we did that. I took a picture with his daughter, and then he took a picture with me. So that was kind of cool. It made it all worth it.
Do not worry, Rob Benedict. History is going to repeat, and someday you will see a band called whether Richard Code or Chuck Charlie.
That would be amazing. I would like to meet the lead singer of Chuck Shirley, the band, or Richard Code. That'd be awesome.
What I found very inspiring about the work that you're producing is the sort of crossover behind and between the different fields. For example, as you just mentioned, this very funny and intriguing crossover between singing and acting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it is interesting, and I've been doing it long enough now that like there have been little moments where I've actually got to do both. I got to people used to say to me, which do you consider yourself, a musician or an actor, or where does it all fit in? Do if you could only do one, what would it be? And that's a hard question to answer. And I always said acting because that's really what I trained for. I went to school for acting, and acting has always been my bread and butter. That's what I wake up and I go, okay, let's get to work. But at the same time, like I said, music has been my passion. It's been my therapy, and the two they really do they cross over now in a way that that's pretty amazing, and I get to do both. For example, like I mentioned at the conventions, I get to do both, but also actually in my acting work, like I mentioned, putting a music of mine into a movie that I was in, or in Supernatural, there's an episode in season 11 where the writer of the episode called me and he was like, "Hey, I wanted to write in that your character picks up a guitar and plays a song. Are you cool with that?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it's amazing." So there's an episode of Supernatural called "Don't Call Me Shirley" that at the end of it, I play a song. I play the song "Fairly Well," and it was a really cool moment for me. Even on set, like I played the song live, and they were running the cameras, and the shot that they got was the shot that they used. The audio they got was what they used. I didn't even have to go back in and re-record it. So it was a really cool moment of like acting, but also playing music, and as you say, merging those two things together. I've been lucky to have had those opportunities, and it's been really it's really amazing. It's the thing that keeps me going.
It definitely keeps you going, and I'm actually very curious about Loud and Swing because there are 4 members. So Rob, yourself, Billy, Michael, and Stefan. What instrument did you play in this band and even outside of the band?
For me, it's always been guitar. I can play a little piano, and with piano, I can learn certain songs, and actually, there have been a couple like acting roles where I was supposed to be a piano player, and all I do is just kind of learn that song, and that's all I could do. But really, guitar has always been. When I was about 12, my mom bought me this cheap electric guitar out of a Sears catalog, and I kind of taught myself how to play. And learned by playing with people that were better than me. So yeah, it's always been guitar, and I write songs on the acoustic guitar and then bring it in. Traditionally, I would then bring a song into those 3 guys. I've been playing with Steven and Mike since the 90s, and then Billy joined the band in about 2004, and Billy's this amazing lead guitar player. So that took some of the onus off of me, and I could just be rhythm guitar player. So traditionally I bring in songs to the guys that say, "Hey, I've got this song," and then everybody kind of puts their stink on it and makes it their own, and that's traditionally how Loud and Swain would write music. Now we've kind of we've morphed into now everybody will bring in their own ideas and we kind of put them all together. I still am the lyricist, but the other guys are great musicians and they bring in ideas too. And actually, we just released our 9th studio record just last week. It's called Foolish, and you can get that too at iTunes and all the different places you get music. And you can find out more at loudandswain.com. But we just released another record, and it's super fun playing with those guys. But yeah, traditionally I'm just a guitar player.
Absolutely, and minutes ago, you just choose between this very serious dilemma, singing or acting. And I would love to retrace this very specific journey, starting from Missouri and also Chicago.
Yeah. Right. I love you did your research. I love it. So I started in Missouri. That's where I grew up, in Columbia, Missouri. It's a university town in the middle of Missouri. It's kind of, Missouri's it's kind of Missouri's little, like every state in the Midwest, the town that has the university is kind of a liberal enclave in the middle of state. And so that's what Columbia, Missouri is. So it's just that my mom calls it the blue dot in the middle of a red sea. So anyway, so that's where I grew up, and I played music with bands, but again, I was in plays, and I was always like, I knew I wanted to go major in theater in college, and I knew I wanted to go out to LA after college. That was my path. And I knew that by the time I was like 16. So the whole time I'm playing music, I was in a band, we played cover songs. I remember writing my first song. I was listening to a lot of U2 at the time. It was the late 80s. And so my first song was called Under the Willow Tree. And I was listening to the album The Joshua Tree at the time. So it was very Joshua Tree related song called Under the Willow Tree. I got into Northwestern, which is a school, university in Chicago. So I went there as soon as I graduated, and I really focused on acting. I was a theater major and really focused on that. But I was still, like I said, in my free time, I was drawn to the passion of music. So I lived with musicians. Like that was the trade-off. I wasn't in a band, but I lived with musicians, so I was around it all the time. And these guys I lived with were in a band, and I would, play with them a lot, and obviously go see them play all the time. And so I graduated, got in a car, and drove all the way out to LA. In August, it was super hot. I had no air conditioning, and but I was determined. Determined to be an actor, and I was gonna, I've always had like this work ethic, like I treated acting like you would treat any other job. I was gonna get in the mailroom and work my way up. And for an actor, for any artist, the mailroom is waiting tables. So I went out to LA and I waited tables for a couple of years and scraped by. I remember getting, when I just barely got enough money to buy a guitar, because I'd sold all my guitars, so I had no guitars. So I bought an acoustic guitar off of one of the, you look in the newspaper and you could see where people are selling their old instruments. And this is back in the day before cell phones, right? So I called someone on the phone, and I met them. It was kind of in a shady neighborhood, but I got this guitar, and it's kind of a crappy acoustic guitar. But then I got my music back, and then I really started writing. And that's around the time I met Mike Borja, the bass player in Loud and Swain, and we would just get together and play music together. And we're playing covers, and then we bring in our own stuff. And that kind of was the initial formation of Loud and Swain. And simultaneous to that, I'm out in LA, and I'm waiting tables, and I finally got my a couple of breaks. I traveled around. I did theater for a while, and then did a couple of guest stars on the original 90210 and those shows of the late 90s, 90210 and Mad About You and Chicago Hope, and and then I finally got sort of my first big break, and that was that came in the role of Richard Code for the show Felicity. So, and then I kind of just slowly built both of those things. Music was happening and acting was happening, and but that was always how I envisioned it. I saw my path, and it was Chicago, then LA, and so fortunately, thank God for that bad acoustic guitar that I bought out here in the bad neighborhood, because that really saved me and kept the music alive.
And Rob Benedict, newspapers was definitely the ancestor of online marketplace. And right. Whether it's acting, singing, or even on the Kings of Con, yeah. I can feel that same level of dedication and energy.
Yeah. So Kings of Con is a show that I wrote and produced with my friend Richard Spate, who's on Supernatural. And so and definitely it's Kings of Con is really fun because it's kind of a playoff of the convention circuit. Richard and I play basically caricatures of ourselves, and it's a joke at our expense. We're kind of like two kind of loser dudes who are doing conventions, we say, we always, the log line of the show is that the craziest people at fan conventions are the actors being paid to be there. So, so it's really fun. And yeah, I just I get a lot of energy, a lot of inspiration, just from creating something. And, whether it's, Kings of Con, which, we did a whole season of that. And, or if it's the Sidekick, the short film that I did, or my music, it's, I get really, really jazzed. I get really energized by that, by the creative process.
I just learned something. I didn't knew that actors were paid to go into convention. And
yeah.
I found also something very funny for the supporters of Kings of Cons, the two Baldwin.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kings of Con. So we did an actual series that was on it was on a short run kind of network, online network called Comic-Con HQ, and then that went away, and now I think you can get it on Amazon Prime. You can get the show anyway. And then Richard and I, when lockdown happened, Richard and I started the Kings of Con podcast, and that's what we do now. You can still listen to our Kings of Con podcast, so yeah, we do it on, we release it live for everybody, but you can also be a member on Patreon. And so Patreon has tiers of members. So I was trying to think of you name your tiers, like you could say extra special member gets these things, or just a supporter gets these things. Anyway, so I named it after the Baldwin brothers. So Alec Baldwin gets you a certain level of stuff, and Billy Baldwin gets you a lower level. We don't have a Stephen Baldwin level yet, but I'm thinking we're gonna do that as well. The other day at a convention last weekend, someone was like, "Hey, I just want you to know, I'm an Alec." And at first, I didn't register what she was saying to me. She was like, "I'm an Alec," and I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, you're Alec Baldwin. Got it. Great. That's awesome. Thank you very much."
And to come back to the acting journey, you just mentioned that one of the first breakthrough, if I can use this word, is the Felicity series. How was it like to enter a new dimension and a new world for you?
It was amazing. I remember I was watching the show as a fan at the time, because I really loved the shows on the old WB network. It really spoke to me because I was just a little bit older than the characters. So I liked Dawson's Creek and I liked Felicity. And so when I had an opportunity to audition for an episode, which was sort of halfway through season 1 of the show, I was super excited and ended up getting the role. And again, it was a role that was supposed to be in one episode. But J.J. Abrams, who was the producers of that show were J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves, who just did the Batman. So these guys went on to greatness. They were amazing guys to work for. Anyway, so J.J. Really liked what I did, and so he kept bringing me back. And so I recurred on the show for all 4 years, and it was amazing. It was one of the best cast relationships I've ever had. I'm still best friends with a lot of those people. I see Scott Speedman a couple times a week, and Greg Grunberg and Amanda Foreman. They're great friends of mine, and Carrie Russell when she's in town. So yeah, they were just amazing to work with, and it was our first big job for everybody, and we were all around the same age ish, and so yeah, we got along great. It was a great first stage, if you will, to step into. So for me, it was great.
And those very popular titles, Felicity, Supernatural, are now part of the past. And now, for the future, in May of this year, you are going to be involved in a very special project called Clear Mind, which is a feature film.
Yeah.
With the same team and crew as in a previous movie that you've done called 13 Miles from Nowhere, in which you played Larry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's the same production team behind 30 Miles from Nowhere, and it was both scripts are written by a woman named Shauna Kofed, who I've known since Northwestern in Chicago. We went to school together, and she's super talented. And right now she's an actress as well. She's on NCIS Hawaii. She wrote the script, and it's a great script. She's a great writer. It's kind of spooky. I mean, the 30 Miles from Nowhere was a little more horror, and this is kind of horror, but it's also a little sci-fi. It reminds me of like Black Mirror, which is a series I really loved. So anyway, yeah, so we're going to Northern California in May to shoot this film, and I'm super excited about it. It's always fun because you never know. As an actor, you kind of never know what the year will bring, and this kind of came across my lap out of nowhere about a month ago, and I'm excited to go do it and have this experience.
And from what I saw in 13 Miles from Nowhere, in Clear Mind, we are expected to see some bugs all around.
I don't know. There's not going to be. I don't know if there'll be as many bugs as 30 Miles. That was really gross. I'm always happy when I am not the person who gets the bugs. But yeah, there are definitely some frights and a little bit of gore, but I don't think there are going to be bugs in this movie. So that's probably best. Bugs freak me out.
Me too. And Rob Benedict, Clear Mind is obviously going to take you a lot of time and a time from your summer and more globally of this year. Do you have other project, whether it's in acting or in singing?
Yeah, well, as I said, so I'll be playing. We do these conventions. We have about 15 more conventions this year. So we're going to be in New York in a couple of weeks, and we're going to go to Chicago this summer. We're going to I'll be in Rome a couple of times for conventions. I'll be in Germany later this year. So there's a lot of those going on, and at each one of those, I'll be playing music from the new Loudon Swain record, as well as my new solo record, Leave the Light On. So we've got that going on, and then I'm doing two different podcasts, the Kings of Con podcast, as well as Richard and I also do a Supernatural rewatch podcast where we're actually going back to the beginning of Supernatural and watching every episode, and then we talk about that episode. So each episode of the podcast is an episode of Supernatural. So we just started that. I think we're on episode 14 or something. And so as you know, there are 326 episodes of Supernatural. So this could take us a while. But it's called Supernatural Then and Now. So that's a podcast we are working on. And yeah. So and then it's still like looking at other scripts and auditioning for stuff. So after the movie, hopefully there'll be another acting gig later this summer. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And for this podcast related to Supernatural, I have a suggestion for you,
Okay.
Robert Benedict. It's to create two same tier, one called Sam Winchester and another one Dean Winchester, but you can choose who is above who.
Oh man, that's a tough choice. I don't know who's above who. I mean, maybe you'd have to if we do it by height, then Sam Winchester would be higher because he's super tall. Jared Padalecki is like 6'4". Jensen Ackles is like 6 feet, a little over 6 feet. So if we're doing by height, then Sam is the higher tier. But man, I can't rank those guys. They're even in my mind. But that's a good idea to have Patreon tiers labeled after characters from the show.
But I truly believe that those tiers would be more kind than the Baldwin one, because the two Winchester are fictional characters.
True. That is true. Yeah, we won't be hurting anybody's feelings. Hopefully the Baldwins aren't affected. Hopefully I have not upset Billy Baldwin, who who probably has no idea, but hopefully I didn't upset him.
Rob Benedict, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I really, I love your show, and I'm happy to be here talking to you.